there, welcome to Farmer's Kitchen, a video series where we talk about storage and cooking tips to make the most of your farm share. My name is Carmen, Tripp and I are your farm directors. Before we get started, we'd like to give thanks to Lennar for allowing us to use this beautiful acacia model kitchen to do this demo. All right, let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about everything eggplant. An eggplant is something that we've heard mostly from residents that you either love it or you have no idea what to do with it. So we hope after a demo like this, you'll learn to love it and try out some new recipes. At the farm this season, we're growing 3 different varieties of eggplant. One is the Italian variety. This is probably the one that you're most accustomed to that you see in the grocery store. We also have an Asian eggplant. This is the long, slender eggplant. And then we have an heirloom variety called the fairy tale eggplant. And this one's kind of purple and white stripes and is a lot teenier. When you get home with your farm share, the most important thing is figuring out how to store it so that it lasts the longest before you're ready to cook it. And with eggplant in particular, because it's a tropical, it's a heat-loving vegetable, it doesn't like to be cold. So if you were to stick an eggplant just like this directly into your refrigerator without any protection, if your refrigerator, which it most likely is below 50 degrees, then it's going to cause cold damage. And you'll notice that pretty rapidly it'll start to get soft spots and turn brown. To be able to prevent that, you can either store it on your countertop for 2 to 3 days, use it pretty quickly, or you can wrap it lightly in a paper towel and stick it into a Tupperware container. And you want to not seal it completely. You want air to be able to enter and leave the container, and that'll kind of keep it slightly warmer so that it lasts longer. But generally speaking, it's best if you use your eggplant within 2 to 3 days because not everyone has like a wine cellar. That would be a perfect temperature to store the eggplant. All right, so let's talk about fun ways to prepare eggplant. Generally, we love to roast, saute eggplant, and when you're working with it, let's talk about roasting it first. The stem up top, you want to cut it off like that. See, it's a bright green color on the inside. We like to cut off this little woody part on the back. So if you're doing roasted eggplant, there's lots of different ways that you could cook it. Generally, you want to make the slices relatively the same size so that they cook at the same rate. You could use circle rounds that are about 1/2 inch thick, like this. Or you could do more rectangular slices like this. It's also possible to roast it by using smaller, more bite-sized pieces, like bigger chunks. You want to cook it with the cut side up. So all you'll do is take a little bit of olive oil, drizzle it with olive oil, sprinkle it with salt, and put it in your oven on a baking sheet for about 425 for about 15 minutes, give it a flip, and then another 15 minutes. You want it to wait till it gets kind of browned and caramelized. You might have heard about salting eggplant. And back in the day when eggplant varieties weren't as good as they are today, they tended to be extremely bitter. So salting was a technique that people used to kind of extract a lot of that bitterness. It's totally not necessary. You can do it now, but now the varieties that are grown today are bred to not be so bitter. So salting is also helpful if you're going to roast it and you want it to kind of go a little bit more quickly. It helps take water out through the process of osmosis. And it also helps impart a really yummy, creamy, salty texture to it as well. So for that, all you would do is before you go to cook it, you take some salt, leave it on your countertop for 15-20 minutes, and you'll notice that it'll start getting covered in water droplets, and that's the water coming out of the eggplant. You can give it a quick rinse under the sink before you put your seasoning on it and put it into the oven, and that helps make it extra yummy and takes the water out so it cooks more rapidly. All right, so if you're going to saute it, it's really great as a side dish. Use a little bit of olive oil. We love putting soy sauce in with the eggplant pretty much every time we cook it. It behaves much like a sponge, so it's going to soak up any of the flavor of what you're cooking. And it goes really well with curry dishes and chili. So when you saute it, just go ahead and make, again, bite-sized pieces and put some olive oil in your pan and fry it until it gets kind of brown and crispy. So between the 3 different varieties, Italian eggplants are great for Italian dishes, like you would think about eggplant parmesan, because you can make really big fat slices that are really easy for layering. And those are typically breaded and fried before they make the layers, which makes it super delicious. The Asian variety has a little bit thinner skin than the Italian variety. All the skins on these are edible, so don't feel like you need to peel them. It tends to be a little bit more tender skinned, and it's great for sauteing. This is the one that you typically find in curry dishes at Thai restaurants. So you can do simple rounds when you're sauteing them, or you can do half moons. Saute really well. So just basically bite-sized pieces. But it can also be cut up into long, thin pieces. So one of our favorite things to do is make eggplant bacon. Now, if you are a fan of actual bacon, it tastes nothing like bacon, but it's pretty delicious anyways. So to make eggplant bacon, you need soy sauce and liquid smoke, which you can both find at Publix or most grocery stores. So what you'll want to do is cut the eggplant into about 1/8 inch thin slices. And again, you could do this with any variety. So you get kind of thin slices like this, and you want to stick them on your baking sheet and bake them at 425 for 8 minutes with a little bit of oil. It's going to get brown and crispy, and don't worry if it gets a little bit burnt in some places, because that is super yummy. And then after those 8 minutes, you're going to take them out, and in a bowl you'll have soy sauce and liquid smoke mixed together. Dip the slices in that mixture, and then put them back on the baking sheet and drop the temperature to 350 and bake for another 3 minutes. What you'll get at the end will be a really delicious umami-filled, chewy, kind of smoky flavored eggplant that goes really well on sandwiches. So you can make like a BLT, but with eggplant bacon instead, and pretty much any type of sandwich. These are really great layered in. It's best fresh, but they will keep a few days in the refrigerator. All right, the heirloom fairy tale variety. This variety is super fun because if you're making like a big veggie dish where you have lots of other veggies, you don't necessarily want a ton of eggplant. You don't want to cut into a big Italian eggplant. The fairy tales are nice if you just want a little bit of eggplant, but they also lend themselves super well to grilling. So you can literally grill them whole, or you can grill them cut in half, and that will also impart a smoky flavor, and they're delicious. They're more white on the inside and have really small seeds compared to the Italian variety. Well, you'll see bigger seeds. But it's extremely yummy and very creamy texture. All right, so to recap, must-haves for your eggplant adventures: soy sauce, olive oil, liquid smoke, and salt. With those things, you're guaranteed to make a yummy dish. The Italian variety is great for large slices or making layers. It's also good for cutting up into thin slices for eggplant bacon. All the varieties saute and roast really well for a yummy side dish. And then the fairy tale, the smaller eggplant, is great for grilling whole, but you could always grill big fatty slices from the Italian one as well. Another really popular dish is baba ganoush. This is a Mediterranean dish that's like an eggplant spread that's super delicious. For that one, it's best to use the eggplant one so you have a lot of the flesh. And you coat it with a little bit of olive oil, roast the cut side up until it's brown and kind of crunchy and caramelized. And then after it's cooled and you've taken it out, you take a spoon and you scoop out all the flesh, and then you discard the skin. And you mix it with tahini and lemon juice and parsley and a little bit of salt and garlic, and it is delicious. You get some pita chips, or some toasted pita, and it makes a really yummy spread. Goes well with things like hummus and tzatziki sauce. Another thing that's fun to do with the bigger eggplants is make stuffed eggplant. So depending on what you like to eat, this could be ground beef, ground chicken, it could be a vegetarian, vegan option as well. So again, you roast them, cut side up, and then once they're slightly cooled, you can scoop out the flesh, mix it in with your other filling, stuff it back in, maybe add some shredded cheese on top or some tomato sauce, bake it again till all those flavors meld and the cheese melts, and then you also have a super easy, delicious meal that uses up an entire eggplant. All right, well, we hope you've enjoyed today's video and that you give these delicious eggplants a chance. They're very healthy for you and they're extremely delicious, and don't hesitate to reach out if you guys have any questions. All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.